In a moment, I'll be reading from 1 Corinthians chapter 11. Halloween's this week, and I don't have anything that connects Halloween to the Lord's Supper. But November also starts this week, and I have several Christian friends who on social media, every day of the month, will post something that they're thankful for. When we look in 1 Corinthians 11, starting in verse 23, this is a retelling of when Jesus instituted the Lord's Supper. And it says, "For I received from the Lord that which I also delivered to you, that the Lord Jesus, in the night in which he was betrayed, took bread. And when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, 'This is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me.'" So I went back and I looked at the three synchronized Gospels that have a very similar story and saw how it was written there. In Mark, verse 14:23, it says, "When he had given thanks." In Luke 22:19, it said, "And when he had given thanks." So we can tell that Jesus was giving thanks when he was instituting the Lord's Supper. The original Greek word that shows up here was, I don't know how to pronounce Greek all that well, but I think it was pronounced Eucharistia. So a lot of people today, but also some people, according to historical records, in the early church would call the Lord's Supper the Eucharist because they looked at this as a time to give thanks. So today I want to briefly touch on three different things that we can give thanks for while we take the Lord's Supper. First of all, when Jesus was instituting the Lord's Supper, he hadn't actually died on the cross yet. So he was probably, we don't have a record of what that prayer was like, but we can take a guess looking at some Old Testament scripture, something that he would be thankful for. So for this, I picked out Psalm 103, verse 13. "Just as a father has compassion on his children, so the Lord has compassion on those who fear him." And the reason I want to mention this is it demonstrates that God had a plan on how the people who fear him, those of us who follow him, those of us who are Christians, can be saved. The second thing we can be thankful for is, I'm going to use Hebrews 12, verse 2. "Looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, for who the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God." Now, every time we take the Lord's Supper, we are proclaiming his death until he comes again. But what day were we commanded to take the Lord's Supper? Were we commanded to take the Lord's Supper on the day of his death? No, we're actually taking the Lord's Supper on Sunday, which is the day that he was resurrected. And so we can be thankful that Jesus not only died on the cross, but he was also resurrected and overcame this world and is now back in heaven after completing his mission successfully. In Matthew's retelling of the first Lord's Supper, in Matthew 26, verse 27, "And when he had taken a cup and given thanks." So we see that in all three of the synchronous Gospels. The third thing to be thankful for this morning, 1 Corinthians 6, verse 11, "You were washed, you were sanctified, you were justified in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ and by the Spirit of our God."